We are live. Yes, here we go. Here we go. So, guys, as you're jumping on, drop a little comment in to the box below. I'm absolutely buzzing for this one tonight. Mr. Martin Pemberton, my good buddy, super excited for it. Look at that big smile he's got, outstanding. So, guys, before we even dive into the night show and I introduce you to Martin, I just want to thank Mr. Keith Arnott. Guys, you can see the new wee graphics that we've got on the screen there. I'm absolutely over the moon. And he has been doing logo, the full shebang. So, outstanding. Just trying to take it up a notch every single step of the way. And we are getting there. So, as you're jumping on, guys, I would love it if you can drop us a little comment, hit that share button, and let's get Pem's story out to as many people as possible. And also, if you are watching on YouTube, drop us a little comment and I'll be sure to get back to you after the live as well. So, this is it, guys. First live in a while on a Friday. So, absolutely buzzing for this one. And as I said, Mr. Martin Pemberton, been through, well, first of all, pro footballer, retired, went through a right tough time in the trenches for a while, got out the other side, smiling, and amazing story, mate. Amazing story. So, yeah. How are you doing, mate? Thanks.
I'm good, mate. Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, mate. I really appreciate it. It's been a while since I've seen you, so it's good to be on and see your face as well and see that you're happy and doing well.
Getting there, mate. Getting there. You know, I mean, lockdown's been a struggle for a few people, but during that time, mate, I just went, you know what, fuck it, let's do this show. If it wasn't for it wasn't for being able to stream live, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to stream live, mate, because the editing side of stuff and that is just no my forte. So,
well, I think and I think it's been good for a lot of people who were maybe a little bit frightened in the beginning when COVID happened, but with the use of technology, like you say now, people are starting to, they're utilising the technology and then they're getting great results. And then many people are saying they can work from home now, which is enabling them to spend more time with the families. And then people are getting that work-life balance that people were talking about so much before and craving, that actually it's come about through COVID. So there's been obviously great things and there's been not so good things, but this is life, right?
Yeah, mate, 100%. Yeah, the biggest learning for us is obviously going 100 mile an hour all the time pre-COVID, and then going to next to nothing. Yeah, we realised we got to find someplace in between that. Definitely can. So, hopefully when the schools go back next week, we can find that balance.
If they go back. We're a little bit further behind than you guys. Obviously, we don't go back till September down in England. So I think there's a lot of parents who are hoping that it's all gonna be all right. Yeah.
Because you were telling us, well, we were at Blackpool last week, and it was like everywhere in that area, apart from Blackpool, was getting shut down.
Yeah, lockdown. Yeah, I know. Well, it's like there was the thing in Leicester, wasn't there? And then I think now I know where a lot of my family are up in West Yorkshire. They've just gone into lockdown in Bradford and Huddersfield and places like that. So it's just. Yeah, I don't think nobody really knows what's going on, do we? So we just got to try and abide by the rules as the best that we can, whether we agree or not, and try to get back to some semblance of kind of normality and get the country going again. But it's tough times. But like you said before, out of those tough times, often the best things kind of come out. We know that firsthand as well, you know, with our own experiences. So definitely. What's it been like for you, mate, yourself? I mean, for me, in terms of just personal life, I'm down now in Worcestershire. So I was living in Yorkshire, ended up down in Worcestershire just before lockdown hit, and I'm now living with my new partner. So that's been a bit of that's a baptism of fire for any relationship. Not only do you start seeing someone, you start living with them, and you're locked down together. So we've seemed to have come through that okay, and things like that. And then I had little bits of struggles not seeing my daughters for a few weeks due to COVID and stuff. So just kind of navigate that. But now we're kind of back on a regular kind of format, seeing them a week on, a week off during the summer holidays. So like I said, in the end, it kind of has worked out well. But yeah, it's been tricky. Yeah, for sure. Definitely in the beginning. So
yeah. Light at the end of the tunnel for you, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, even work-wise, that kind of was probably a lot of my stuff was going into businesses, doing mental health awareness talks in front of live audiences. So obviously that's had to change. So there's been a change then in that. And then now I'm just speaking to some companies about doing the online stuff like we're doing now and running workshops for that. Yeah, had a few clients just over the internet. Again, just changing the way that you work really. So kind of, from what I was doing before, it kind of feels like starting again. But although that was a bit scary to start with, it's quite exciting as well, as like you've just done. And like you said, you've just got to go and do it.
That's it, mate. That's it. I actually had a young guy on, Liam McKelvey. He is quad amputee. So he actually got meningitis when he was 2.
Right.
And his arms and legs, I think up to his knees. But he's working hard to be an inspirational speaker now.
Yeah.
And very quickly, he was actually one of the first people I had on. And very quickly, he was just like, bang, flipped it, and then started doing Zoom conferences to businesses and that. So, and he's had even more opportunity. So it's been good, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It's like we said before, technologies you can utilize it for really good things and use it to your advantage now, and that's what the world is discovering, I suppose, that you can do a lot of the things we were doing in person, we can do them online. I spoke to a friend yesterday who was a head teacher, and she said that's made life a lot easier, not having to travel to meetings and then get back to school for another meeting, and then they're doing them all via Zoom. So saving time. And a friend of mine also said that now he doesn't have to travel into work. As soon as he finishes at home, he comes out and he can be with his family straight away. So he's gaining family time in the morning, afternoon, and an evening. So yeah, there's a lot of people have got a lot of good things out of it, you know.
That's good, mate. That's good. Cool then, Pim. So I want to take you right back to your, even before football. Tell us a wee bit about your upbringing and who you are.
So I was born in 1976, so quite a few years ago. So I'm 44. I was born in Bradford, in West Yorkshire, to an Afro-Caribbean dad and a white English mother. So I'm mixed race, if you can say that, dual heritage, whatever they call it now. I don't know. I lose track. They keep changing the categories for what I actually am.
Yeah.
So
I've been calling my family the United Colours of Benetton.
Yeah. That's what it is. It's changed so much. You know, what was all right to say, what wasn't all right to say, and now different terms. It's just, I mean, obviously that's just another event altogether and subject that we probably will stay clear of tonight. But so yeah, I grew up in Bradford. You know, just went to school. Started playing football when I was about 7 or 8, and I just loved playing football, mate, as you are well aware of yourself as well. And it was just one of those things that came very naturally to me. I loved playing. It's one of those things where you forget any troubles you might have while you're on the pitch, and realised that I had quite a talent for it. And then from 8 years old, I was like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was like, right, I'm going to be a pro footballer. Because at 8, you just go, yeah, I'm just going to be a footballer. Like it's that easy, right? But and so now when I go in and speak to like kids in schools and talk about achieving your goals and things, the parallels between what you actually did to get there become really evident. So first off, I just made that decision that's what I was doing. There was no other thing that I wanted to do. I remember going on work experience when I was in high school. I went to a bank for 2 weeks. It was bored the life out of me. I went to see the careers. Officer, and he said, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to be a pro footballer, like you do." And he said, "You might have to be more realistic. I don't think that's really a real option." But I stood up. I walked out of the meeting because I said, "No, that's what I'm I'm doing. And then so played for the Bradford boys, go through the ranks, signed schoolboys forms at Oldham, went for trials at other places, Nottingham Forest and other clubs like that. But actually, what I'd also done when I was 11, I fractured my back, but I didn't know at the time in a game. I had a stress fracture, but we didn't find it for 3 years. So for 3 years, I just played on and off, play for a week, have 2 weeks off, all the way through. It's only when I went to the Lillishall trials, they used to have the trials for National Football School, got down to the last, basically it was the last 20 odd players where you have to have a medical to see how you are. And that's when they discovered the stress fracture. So that was me, couldn't do that. I had to have a year out, complete rest, and that was that kind of dream gone. So my best mate ended up going, but unfortunately I couldn't go. But it was good though, because sorry, go mate.
Who was your age group? That time?
I'm trying to think now. It was Ben Thatcher was in that age group. Carl Saran, Justin Walker. I'm trying to think who else there was. It was a few years ago.
Was at Wimbledon when I was there.
Yeah. Ben Thatcher was there.
He's a beast, mate. He's absolutely.
Well, we were like 14 then. So, but I think that's the other thing. As you go through the ranks, and you'll know yourself, the higher you go up, the next level, you're worried about, can you actually cut the mustard and play with these guys? It's not until you play and then you go, actually, I'm all right. I can cope at this level, that you get more confidence. So. Yeah, I had to have a year out at 14 with a stress fracture. I could only go swimming, and that was a pretty tough time. That was probably the only time, 6 months in, where I kind of thought, I wonder if this is going to be for me. But everything that I did, mate, was just geared towards becoming a footballer. Like, without knowing it or understanding, played before school, break time, lunchtime, after school, going for your tea, back out, play again, 7 days a week, play for how many teams? Because you just loved playing, didn't you? So it was just
You don't
practice.
see that now, mate, do you?
No, just practice. There was just this dedication and drive that you just have for something that you love, that propels you forward, and you make sacrifices. But like I say to people, they're not really sacrifices, because it's what you want to do. And it's just amazing. And then when you look now to people, when you've got a drive or a passion for something that you really, really want to do and love, it's funny how there are no excuses, or there's nothing that stands in your way. You're just determined. You've got that determination. So even having the year out, coming back after that, it was still a focus to become a pro. And then at 16, did my GCSEs, went to Oldham Athletic, and they... I think they were that was the first year of the Premier League. So they were founding members, fortunately. So that was good for us. But I remember being sat in a room before your apprenticeship, and I think there was 12 of us, I think. And the PFA come in and they say, listen, not everybody's going to make it. These are the percentages. And he said, out of you guys in here, there's only 2 out of 12 of you are going to make it. Well, me and my best mate, Carl, just looked at each other, and we both had the same thought, like, well, that's me and you sorted. I don't know what anyone else is going to do. Well, that's the confidence that we had, and it was just this belief and drive that it just was unfathomable to me that I was not going to become a pro. It didn't even enter your mindset. So, became a pro at 16, mate, and the Oldham were in the Premier League, so we got to see all, like, your Arsenals and your Man Uniteds, all the big boys come, which was an amazing education as well. And they coming from... Go, mate.
Sorry, was Dennis Irwin there at that time?
Dennis Irwin he'd already gone to United. I think he went that. I think he'd gone the season before, because Oldham had got to I remember they got to was it the League Cup final, I think, in 1990, and then they were in the FA Cup semi-finals. That was the season when Mark Robbins scored the goal at Forest that made Fergie kept his job, and then they played Oldham in the semi-finals. It was 3-3 in the semi, and then they beat them in the replay. So, but you go from GCSEs and living with your mum to you go staying in digs, and you go to this football club, and you've just got people shouting and screaming at you, and you're legging it up some big mountain running in pre-season. You don't see a football for 2 weeks, and you're like, what the hell? What the fuck's that? Like, I was doing my GCSEs last week. I've got someone out with me telling me to clean the boots, throwing pots of tea at me because I've not made the tea right. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And it's just, but the growing up that you do in them first few weeks, you'll know yourself in pre-season, is like it's so valuable in terms of it's quite harsh environment, but the growing up that you do is incredible, right? In such a short space of time.
Yeah. I think like a lot of things that we went through, actually I listened to Damien Duff, he was speaking about when he first went over to Blackburn as a kid. And he was just saying like some of the things that went down, man, you would get to jail and all.
You can't get away with it.
Oh, you can't. No way, mate.
Well, I can tell maybe a couple of bits, probably. I think they're all right. But so like for us, I should be all right. At Christmas, you had to sing a song in front of the first team and all the pros, and the metal skips that you'd travel, put boots in for away trips, set that up in the corner of the showers, but you'd have to sing with nothing on. So that in itself was like, oh mate. So, and if you weren't any good, and so while you're there singing, you try to sing your best, and you've got people spraying deep heat spray on certain parts of your body. There's putting Vaseline in your hair. The pouring cold stale tea on you, all the while you're having to sing this song, because if you don't sing well, you're having it like, do you know what I mean? But people might think, no, God, that's a bit extreme and stuff, and that's out of order. Obviously, you're never getting away with that now, but even though and in those apprenticeship days, even though you got treated probably the worst you've ever been treated, it was probably the most fun you ever have in football, like is your apprentice days, because it's just you're just learning that trade, and the banter, like you said, the jokes that happen. There's something funny, like hilarious, happens every single day, and you've got this camaraderie. You've got these 12 lads, and you've got a load of responsibilities, and cleaning boots and dressing rooms, putting kit out, and all the while you've got to make sure it's done right. And I remember people not putting a certain piece of equipment in the skip for an away game, and then you'd be on the rower having to do 3,000 meters in 12 minutes, and if you didn't do it, you were on again. But you didn't forget to put them in again. You didn't forget to put your stuff in. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or you're cleaning the dressing room, and I remember Ian Marshall. I don't know if you remember him at Oldham, long-haired Scouse guy. He's centre forward. He was. But we was cleaning the dressing rooms, and we was like looking to get away early because it was a Wednesday, getting the jobs done. And Marshy stood at the top of the stairs, and he said, "Oh, are you all right, lads? Are you off for the day now?" We're like, "Oh yeah, Marshy, we've done." But as I said that, I looked at him, and he had his foot on top of a mop bucket that had dirty water in it, and and there's nothing he can do, and he just pushed it down the stairs, mate. And it just went all over the floor. And he's like, "Nah, I don't think you're finished, lads." And you can't do anything, and you're thinking, "You bastard." But it still you just got on with it, So like, apprentice days, incredible, mate. Really, really good.
No, we were the same, mate. I was telling my mate the other day, it was like when we went to paintball, so half our team were black and half were white, right?
Yeah.
And when I first went to London, like it totally blew my mind. I'd never seen like one black person in my life in real life before, mate. Do you know what I mean? I'm from Dundee. Apart from obviously my missus. It was like, I was just so intrigued, man, how we said ask instead of ask, and just like loads of wee things, mate. And it was just how the guys dressed. Yeah. When we were in the dressing room, I was just telling them, like, and the banter that we had, we would go paintballing and stuff like that. People might think this is mental in this day, but this was 20 years ago. So I was white Scottish. We had two white German. We had a Jewish guy and we had a Turkish guy. Yeah. And it was us and the black guys versus the white English at paintball. That's how we picked the teams. Yeah, but if you thought, I just couldn't see that happening nowadays, mate. People would be like,
no, there'd be an outrage, wouldn't there, an uproar. But I think, like you said, the world's changed a lot, and rightly so in many instances. The things that people are talking about now.
Yeah, no.
We all know. There are things, but on the flip side of that, and this is just my opinion as a guy who's black and white, both mixed, is that although there may be some sort of privilege that people may feel people have, I think the thing that I always got taught from my dad was he never made colour an issue to me.
Yeah.
So like my old man, darker than dark, but he just said to me, listen, son, don't get into trouble, because if you do, you're probably the one who will be the odd one out who they'll remember. And, you know, but he didn't say because of the colour of your skin, because it's, you know, I could have been red-headed, for example, right? So for you, you'd be the odd one out in a group of white lads. But what he meant is but he said, just don't go get into trouble, and you'll be all right. But he never said to me, oh, listen, son, just be aware, you know, your colour's going to stop you, or there's going to be people against you. He never instilled that in me. So I've never even ever thought of that. Not that I'm not aware of racism or that there are people who are racist, but my mindset has been that my colour doesn't stop me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's just what I was given from my old man. Now I know other people have probably had it dealt to them a different way and had a different belief or a set of beliefs, so they've looked for things or noticed things more than I would have done. But that's how my dad's always brought me up, and of course with my mum and dad being that, you know, like you're with your missus and she's mixed race. My mum's white, my dad's black. It never was a thing for us, because we just grew up in that way of black and white were together anyway. And I saw all my white family and I saw my black family, and I was just me. And growing up, most of my friends were white, but I never felt any different, you know. Just and that's, so for me, I'm like, that's the way I would love it to be for everyone. Of course, I know I'm not naive enough to believe that it could be, but it's there may be things against you, but I think you also have to go into life not letting those things become a factor. Same way as if you've got a disability, or if you're, you know, your age doesn't have to be against you, your gender doesn't have to be against you. That's not to say people won't put blocks in your way, but it's about what you decide or what you're gonna do, right? And so that's kind of how I figure it with that. Some people might disagree, but that's life, right?
No, that's cool, man. I like it. So from there, mate.
Yeah, well,
Oldham.
Started at Oldham, and I loved it. I loved playing football. Started as a centre forward, so by the end of my career, I was playing left back. So I progressively got further back. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great when you look back after your career to kind of I've now pinpointed little things that I maybe didn't do or could have done better that might have meant my career was a little bit different. One of the things I've said when I do talks and things is, when I talk about that laser focus from being 8 up to 18, that 10-year process of just, that was what I was doing. The mistake that I made when I became pro was that I didn't set the next tangible goal. Like, I didn't go, right, I'm pro now, I should have gone, I want to get 20 games in first team.
Yeah.
Do you know? And had a laser focus to what? And then once I'd done that, it would have been, so in my head, the job of 10 years was done. And I think subconsciously you maybe take your foot off the gas. I still trained hard and worked hard and wanted to do well, but I didn't have that same focus. Does that make sense? And so that's the lesson I learned from that is, once you achieve a goal, you got to put the next one in straight away, and then that's where you focus, because you've done that one. That's old news, it's history. So that's what I wish I'd have done, because then I ended up leaving Oldham and I went to Doncaster Rovers for a season, and then I ended up at Scunthorpe for a few months, and then Hartlepool on a month to month, and then I got injured, and then I was out of the game.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was like I just had a month where I didn't want to know about football. I didn't want to read about it. I basically just went on the piss, mate. I was out every night, going to bed late, getting up late, just gone. And then I ended up playing non-league. I went to Harrogate Town. Congratulations to them, by the way. They've just been promoted, haven't they, into the league for the first time. Yeah, they went up the other day in the playoffs. But that's where I kind of got my confidence back. Ended up, I met a guy called Trevor Staunton, who used to play for Liverpool a long time ago, and he was the manager at Bradford Park Avenue. I ended up going there for a year, and it was him who got me a trial at Mansfield with Billy Dearden, and then I managed to get myself back into the league, mate, and then went to Mansfield in 2000, and then we got promoted in 2002 from League 2 to League 1, and that was amazing. Then I ended up moving to Stockport then with Carlton Palmer, and I probably didn't produce my best stuff when I went to Stockport. Again, lack of focus, mate. I think, when I look back now, just kind of took my foot subconsciously off the gas, picked up a few injuries, back injuries, etc. And then I found myself coming out of the pro game, went to Farsley Celtic with some of my mates, so that was good. I got to play back again with some of my best mates at non-league, and Farsley went all the way from, I think it was like the Northwest Counties. They got then into the National League in 2007, and then I called it a day then because the body was just not responding, mate. So in 2007, yeah, I finished playing 2007, and then it's just like, what do you do? What do you do then? You know, fortunately enough, a family member had some contacts and I ended up working with disadvantaged kids as a learning mentor, mate. So from 2007 to 2013, that's what I was doing. Got married in the meantime, became a dad, moved house, and I did all that in like a calendar year. So I say to everyone, I don't recommend that you do all those things. I don't retire from football after 25 years. Like, don't get married, have a kid, move house, and start a new job in the same 12 months. It's a recipe it might not work out too well for you. That's what I did, mate. So, yeah. And then 2013, that's when it all came crashing down. It was July 2013, mate. It was a boiling hot day, like a really hot summer, and everyone's outside. The kids are playing in the playground, and all the staff are there with t-shirt and all the summer attire on. I've got like t-shirt, jumper, fleece. I'm fully like wrapped up, and I'm shivering, and I'm feeling terrible. Do you know what I mean? Like it, and so I got sent home, and I had the man flu, mate. So we know how deadly that is. That's like, you know, if you get man flu, you're struggling. It's a serious disease, isn't it? So, have you ever had that, Dino, man flu? Have you had it?
My wife reckons I've never had it.
Mate, it's tough, mate. It's tough. If you can come through that, you can come through anything. But and then I was due to go back to the work, into the unit, and then I was watching TV with my little daughter, who was 5 at the time, and then all of a sudden, just this wave of emotion came over me, mate, and just a tear just started running down my face, and I was like, "Wow, that's not man flu." So I didn't want my daughter to see me crying, you know, this whole thing, and it with men, certainly with my knowledge at that time about manning up, and you know, certainly coming from a football background, you're not allowed to show any kind of weakness. Mental weakness was kind of looked down on then. So I just got myself out of the room, and I went into my wife at the time, and I just said, I can't go back to work, and I just kind of nearly collapsed, mate, into her arms, and it was like, just felt like, I don't know if anyone else will be able to relate to this on the call, but I just felt like I had this massive weight on my chest, like a big slab, and I just, you know, when you're doing reps at the gym and you've got no more in your locker, and I just felt like that. And my wife said, you know, why don't you go make an appointment with the doctor? So I did, and I felt a little bit better. But after I'd done that, mate, the next thing is I was then worrying what the doctor was going to say. Like, I was like, what if he says to me, there's nothing wrong with you? What if it says to you, you need to go to work tomorrow? And that was my like fear. So I spent the whole night feeling really anxious and worried about going to the doctor. And of course, you know, you get there and they look after you, and he was brilliant. And he signed me off for the whole of the summer holidays, which was just before the summer. And he put me on some antidepressants, which that's the other thing. I wasn't keen, but at that moment, mate, and I knew I needed something. And so that's the other thing I'd say to people who maybe feel funny about taking tablets. You take tablets for a headache, or you take some paracetamol, or you take cough medicine if you've got, you know what I mean, a physical ailment. But there seems to be a stigma around taking tablets for your mental health. So, and I just want to address that with people and say, you take a tablet for physical illness, so why should you not take one for your mental health? So don't feel any way about that. Like if you need them, you do whatever works, you know.
Yeah. I think when it does come to taking antidepressants and things like that, I think, like, check yourself first, though, Ken. you're doing the right things in the daily life before you get to that point. You know what I mean? It's like, are you training? Are you things that you're going to go through? Because a lot of the time it could be too easy, and you might not get. It could be easy for you to get them tablets as well.
100%, mate. And for me at that time, I wasn't thinking like what you've just said. I wasn't thinking about all the things, how I was living before, what I was doing. Was I doing all the right things I could do myself before going on the tablets? And the other thing is, mate, as well, to consider, we don't always know in which cases they work or whether it's just placebo anyway.
Yeah.
Because, you can be on them and think that they're working wonders for you, and then you can come off them and think, oh, God, I'm going to struggle because I'm a tablets. But I always think, is it the tablets or is it just that you believe that? So, I mean, we'll come on to beliefs and that in a little bit. But so, I got on them. I didn't stay on them that long because I said after a while I decided I wanted to start changing what I was doing, start living. I'd stopped exercising. I wasn't eating right. I started drinking loads and amongst other things, mate. Do you know what I mean? That I wasn't taking care of me. So in retrospect, when you look back in hindsight, it's a great thing, of course, but there was a lot of things I wasn't doing that I could have been doing to make my situation better. So like you said, for anyone listening, what are you doing every day to look after yourself? What time are you going to bed? How much sleep are you getting? Are you drinking a lot of water? Are you eating as well as you can? Are you exercising? You talked earlier about your diet, your internal and external diet. What are you watching? What are you reading? Who are you listening to? Who are you hanging around with? How are you talking to yourself? What's the conversation you're having in your head on a daily basis?
Pim, I see it developing in myself, like before my own eyes. Like I'm sitting up watching Netflix after 12, 1 o'clock, and it's nothing that I'm really interested in. And then I can't get out of my bed properly in the morning. And so then I miss my run. I then I go for my run. Then a workout gets dodged. You skip breakfast. You're on the coffee. Then the next minute you're eating shit for your lunch, and then it just goes again. And then by the time it's hit night time again, you're back in front of Netflix, and and then things start to tumble, and the stress levels go up because of that. And you're being hard on yourself. And by then you're 3 days in, you've no trained, 4 days in, and I'm thinking, what the fuck? And I've got a wee five list. You know what I mean? Obviously you've developed a 1-11, but for me, I'm like, I've got no eating perfect, but I've got to eat decent.
Better.
Got to get my water in. I've got to train every day. And what goes in here, mate, whether it's audio or what I'm reading and shit like that.
100%. And another one, if you can get out into nature, into the woods or parks, or get outside, get some fresh air, get in amongst nature, because that in itself is a really good way and thing for you to kind of do. But like you said, it can come on you really, really quick, can't it? Just when you just start to take little things out of your routine before you know it, and then you start saying, it's all right, I'll miss that workout, or I'll just grab a biscuit. And like you said, I'm not talking about being perfect with what you eat, but there's got to be a level of responsibility that we all take for what we do with our lives, because no one makes you put that biscuit in your mouth. No one makes you have that drink. No one makes you watch Netflix till 12. We all do it ourselves. But when you're in that mindset, for me, what I found with me, and I've found with many other people, the blame is always going that way, like outwards. You're always saying about what other people are doing or are doing, and you need to. It's a hard thing to do, but that you have to point the finger first this way. And it's not to be cruel to yourself, but it's to just understand that whatever you've created that's turned out negatively, you've done that. So actually you've got the power to change it the opposite way. So I don't think, let's beat ourselves up and be really hard on ourselves. Let's go, well, do you know what? This is awesome. This has turned out shit because I've done this. So actually I can make it better. And that's really empowering for me. So I understand now, rather than being in a victim mindset, try to think more of a creation mindset. I create the world as I want it to be inside, which means outside then it's a better place to be. because when it's shit, and I've contributed to that. So that was and that's the first principle that I learned from the 1 to 11, mate, which only came about after me being depressed, having bouts of anxiety, going to counselling, thinking people are going to mug me, getting ready to have fights, and then they weren't even interested in me. You know, they walk on by and you go, you fucking knobhead. And then 2 minutes later, you see another group and you're ready to go again. And it was actually one day going to counselling. I had the earphones in, which is the universal sign for I don't want to speak to anyone or don't speak to me, right? So, but I was crossing over the road and a car came whizzing from the left-hand side and I just saw it coming. I jumped back. They beeped their horn. They shouted a few obscenities at me, I think, as they drove past. And I was like, fucking hell, that was close. Could have got knocked down then. But then my mind started going, could have got knocked down. Could have broke my leg. Could have maybe broke my pelvis. Might have been unconscious. Could have ended up in a coma. And then the next thing I said in my head was, could have even died. But then at that point, then my mind went, but that'll be all right. Because all this shit will be over. That's what I said to myself. And that's when I knew. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
At that moment, dying was all right for me because I'd had enough and I just didn't want to feel like that anymore. And this is the other thing I say to people. People say, oh, you can snap yourself out of it. Again, if you've just been entrenched in a certain way of thinking for a long time, it don't matter whether you've got 2 little kids, you're married, you've got people around you. In those moments, you just don't give a fuck. Because they're not enough to bring you out. Like, do you know what I mean? And so the other thing I discovered, mate, was that I had to learn to communicate then, and I had to come clean and tell people where I was at, because up until that point, they just thought I was a bit sad. So they were trying to offer me all kinds of solutions. Oh, get yourself back to work, get back being busy. And it was all good intentioned, but in my head, I was like, you lot trying to bump me off. Like, I thought, in my head, I was like, the missus wants the insurance. That's what I was saying to myself. She wants me to go back to work so she can clean up, right? but I was blaming people without giving them the information they needed.
Yeah.
Once I told them that I was thinking about killing myself, then they could then offer me the help and support that I needed. So again, if you're struggling, you've got to tell people where you're at. Like, don't feel any way, don't be embarrassed, ashamed of feeling so low that you'd rather not be here. That's the precise time you need to tell someone, those closest to you, because then they can help you in a way that you need. Right now, if you're not telling people how you feel, they cannot help you, but you'll be blaming them, saying, why aren't they helping me? But you haven't told them. So that was where the next step came in, So once I did that, people then could rally around me. They're going to be worried, aren't they? Of course, but I think they'd rather know so they can help you than not knowing, and then you go take those next steps. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, definitely, mate. Definitely. It's like, obviously, I've not been to the point where I've been as low as that, but I've had times. I call it's like analysis paralysis. My brain's going crazy, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing anything that's going to get me moving forward or to benefit myself. And it's mental. Like, any kind of physical training, especially running, is like therapy for me. But that's the only time when I get clarity, Tim. It's like, you could be in the blame mode, you could be in like the frustration mode, you're inside your own mind, and then you're out on that run, maybe the first couple of K, you're just trotting through, and it's like a wee ding. Things start to make, and you just get that wee buzz again, and very quickly the cheeks go up. You get the wee cheeky smile, you switch the tunes on, and
change your
it's only a spark for the day, or but it's enough for. And then I remember, fucking hell, man, get a grip.
Definitely. And this is the other thing. Then what you just said is that that exercise changes your physiology, and then that has an effect on your emotional state. So then changes how you think and how you feel, and then it changes how you act, and then it changes what you do. So that, and I don't know for you, I'm the same with training, because you've done it so much through your football and stuff. I don't mind beasting myself. It fucking hurts, mate, doesn't it? And it's horrible when you're doing it, but afterwards there's just this thing, that this way that you feel knowing you've beasted yourself and you've survived. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit sadistic, really. You want to smash yourself. I was speaking to my mate the other day, and we obviously we're 40 odd now, and I said to him, mate, do you, you know, when you're training, can you take your foot off the gas, or do you still just hammer it thinking that you're 20? And he's like, yeah, I still think I'm 20. And then it's only after when you realise, you go, I feel terrible today, I ain't 20 anymore. But do you know what, mate? Even on the flip side of that, that's another thing. This age thing.
Yeah,
I hear so many people justify where they're at, what they can do, the physical condition. Oh, well, I'm getting older now. I'm 40, or I've got heard people complain about being 30 and that. I'm like, you're only 30. Do you know, like, what's wrong with you? Oh God, I had to go. Yeah, I'm 30. Big deal. Do you know what I mean? But we again, we take on this belief that somehow because you're getting older, that you can't do things, or you can't try something new, or you can't go I'll never get myself in shape now because I'm 35, I'm 40, I've had a kid. You know what? And I'm not saying anything about women, because I wouldn't like to have a baby. But sometimes that's an excuse that people use. Your age, you know, you've had kids, you're married, you don't have time, and it's all these ideas that you just have to understand. You've taken these ideas on, and you've chosen to believe them. So that's exactly what you do. Because I see, what was there an article with a geezer who's 80 odd, who's done like however many Ironmans in. He's 85 or something. Yeah. So, you know, and so, just changing.
Thoughts become things, mate, don't it?
Yeah,
thoughts become things.
Yeah. Well, even like you said, when you smile, that changes your physiology and you feel different. So, but it's having that understanding and mindset that you're going to do everything within your power to feel better.
Yeah.
You know, so. Yeah, and how this 1 to 11 came about, mate, was only through recovering. And the mistake again I made when I first made that first recovery and I started feeling better, I thought I'd cracked it. Just like when people lose weight and that, and then you get down to where you want to be, and then you start looking in the mirror and you give it one of them, don't you? And you start having a few more extra drinks and biscuits because you've cracked it and you've lost the weight. And then 2 months later, you go, fuck me, I'm back where So I did that with the mental health. I'd get better, thought I'd cracked it, got smashed right in the face again. It came and it just hit me from out of nowhere. And I had to do that probably 2 or 3 times until I just thought to myself, right, I'm not doing this anymore like a roller coaster. So I just said, right, what most of us do is we only look at things when they're going wrong. So I'm going to look at what I'm doing when I'm going well and I feel great. And what I found with these 11 things, and then obviously the link then came with the 11 players on the pitch. I remember managers saying, if you win your battles 1 to 11, you win the game. So that came in, and I just thought, and then I thought, right, these 11 things, actually, the universal principles, anyone can do these in any area of the life, mate. And so that's when I started, just my brain got going. So what they are is, and I'll go through them now for people, anyone who's interested, is the first step, and I'll put a graphic in the comments after, mate, with the picture of it, so people can get a visual. But what I say is, number 1 is acceptance and responsibility. That's like in your team, if you think of it as football, that's the goalkeeper, because you've got to have a good goalkeeper, because if you've got a shit goalkeeper, you're never winning a football match, ever. So I just thought, right, and that's the first principle, and that can't be changed, because without acceptance, you cannot change anything. If you can't accept where you're at, what's happened, how life's going, you're never going to change. And acceptance doesn't mean I'm resigned to, or this is how it is for me forever. It's just going, this is where I'm at right now, based on the skills that I've got. But the flip side of that is that personal responsibility. What have I done to add to what's gone on? What could I be doing differently? And what will I do better? So there's a learning. It's like, it's not like, can you learn from this bad situation rather than beating yourself up? So without acceptance and responsibility, you will not be able to move forward, whether that's from a relationship breakdown, changing your job, parenting, your health, your mental health, whatever your fitness. If you can't accept and take responsibility that you're the one who's the creator of this, not a victim, you'll never move. So you got to get yourself out of a victim mindset first off. Next thing was communication that we'd said earlier. How are you communicating with yourself? What's the words that you've just said? The thoughts become things. What is the commentary? What's that roommate in your head saying to you every single day? Because we all have it. You've just got to decide whether you choose to listen or not. And then asking for help if you're struggling, like you've got to ask for help. So that communication is really, really key. Then it's support. Look around you. Who have you got around you who's going to be a positive influence in your life and who's a negative influence? And you know what? Those people might be people you've known for a long time who are negative influences, but you're going to have to make a decision to maybe not spend as much time with those people. I'm not saying fall out with them, cut them completely, but if it's a choice between you getting well and staying well, then you're going to have to, make a decision. So what's the support? And then number 4 was values, or who's the best version of me? That kind of projecting yourself into the future. Who would I like to be, and what does he do, and how does he speak, and how does he treat people, and what condition is he in, and what's the drive that he's got, and who is he? And I kind of have a mental picture of who I want that to be, and then I try to live up to those values. But the other thing to say is you might never reach those values. You might never become the best version, and actually you should never, because you're always going to be pushing. Because if you did reach that level, then it's like I said, you got to go again, to become even better. And then the 5th thing, mate, was gratitude. What I discovered is it's such a powerful tool. Everything was wrong in my life at that time, and I was blamed. Everything was shite. This is shit. They're shit. They're horrible. They're not doing this to help me. And it's only when I started to learn about gratitude just through personal development, when you start to think differently, it changes again, changes your physiology, changes the way you think. What have I got to be thankful for every day? Well, if you woke up, that's a good start. If you wake up in the morning, that's good. You might have a nice comfy bed. You might have duvet, pillows, hot water, heating, clean water, food in the fridge. You've got clothes, you've got shoes. You can probably get through hundreds of things before you even get down stairs. And it's just cultivating that attitude of the glasses are full rather than half empty. And instead of saying, someone said this to me the other day, instead of saying, I've got to do that, how about saying, I get to do it? Oh, I've got to do school run. What about I get to do school run? Oh, I've got to go to work. What about, well, I get to go? Because somebody's, so even that little thing. So those, and also, mate, what I was going to say is,
I like the one as well, Pim, when people say that happened to me. Or, that happened for me. Yeah.
It's just a very subtle change, and it just changes your paradigms and the way you see things. And the other thing, what I figured with football, mate, I don't know if you'll be able to agree with this. I just thought about all the times we used to play and how games reflect life. So, like, you're playing this match and you're competing, and then you're playing really well. All of a sudden, linesman or referee gives a decision, or something happens. You go a goal down. You're away from home. You're up against it. You're getting hammered off the crowd. They're abusing you. And do you remember those spells when you just try to keep the ball out of the net for like 10 minutes and you're up diving, you're scrambling and you're diving in front of the ball and you're blocking it and putting your body online. But eventually, and I think that's what, when life throws you a curveball, that's how I see it in my head now. I've got to weather the storm for 10 minutes in a game, but it's longer in life until you get set. And then I get my confidence back, and then you can start playing football again and going forward. And that happens in games. And I thought, that's just what happens in life, right? It's just everything's going sweet. You're playing ole football at your little 1-touch, 2-touch, and then something and then you're up against it, and you just. And so that's why I picked those first 5 things that are my go-tos to steady the ship whenever anything knocks me or rocks me, because it always does, doesn't it? Life's gonna be like that, mate. And then after that, I realised that I didn't have any goals. So after I finished, I didn't have anything that lit a fire under my arse that I was passionate about. So anything after football was never gonna compare. Do you know what I mean? So now I've found something that I'm passionate about. But like I said earlier, set that goal, and then you got to set the next one, and then you need some structure and a plan, because if you don't have any plan or structure to your goal, you're never going to achieve it. And if that's someone might want to lose a stone. Well, how are you going to do that then? Have you got an actual plan of how you're going to do it? And then what are you going to do every week? What are you going to do every day to make that plan a reality, right? And then with that, I then discovered that you need discipline and consistency. And those two go together, because if you're not disciplined, you can't get any kind of consistency, and vice versa. And that's the consistency and discipline to carry out your plan. But if you ain't got, the only way you can have discipline and consistency is if you've got some commitment. So whether that's me being committed to just staying alive now, right, or whatever it is, you've got to have some commitment to your goals to carry out your plan. Because if you ain't got commitment, it's never going to happen. And then the last piece of the puzzle, I figured, was just time. That's the 11th piece. Time in terms of, and I know you will have heard this before, where you're either investing, spending, or wasting time.
Yep. Also,
I understand now that kind of time is probably my most precious commodity now, because that's the thing that we're all running out of. And so now to identify, I say to people, just take a plan, an assessment of your whole week, and just look and log everything down. Be as honest as you can, and you will see there are so many areas where you're wasting time, where you could put in those things that you've been making excuses for, saying that you don't have time. I ain't got time to go to the gym, or, well, just get up 20 minutes earlier. Oh, I can't do that. Well, just go to bed 20 minutes earlier. You'll still get the same amount of sleep. Do you know what I mean? So it gives you an idea of where you could maybe make some changes in your life to reach the goals that you want to reach. And if you put those 11 things together, I've found, for me anyway, that it's been really effective. And the other thing is, when things go wrong, I can instantly pinpoint one of those 1 to 11 and see that I've stopped doing something. Because when it starts to fall off, I guarantee you, mate, I've always stopped doing something. Do you know what I mean? That I was doing, and that's the consistency element. So that's how I use it now, and that's what I try to speak to people about, because if they can get really good at these things, and everybody's 1 to 11 can be in any order. Don't have to be in the order I do it, but it's just a philosophy and understanding that if you can put these 11 things together really, really well, then generally you'll be in a better position. So that's where it came from, mate. Just my own experiences, really, of life, and understanding what worked and what wasn't working.
Nah, mate, I love it. And I think, like, with regards to gratitude, mate, I mean, I could go back. It's been about 8 years. First of all, I read the book called The Secret. Yeah, me too. After The Secret, which obviously gave me an understanding of what the law of attraction was, and thought, like, that's where thoughts become things came from, and that. But then the magic, which is the one that she wrote after it, it's a 30-day practice. Have you done it?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Every day you got to wake up and write down 10 things that you're grateful for to start your day with. Yeah. So, you know, there's people watching and thinking that how do they apply it to their life? Like, the book, The Magic, is unbelievable. Yeah. And it takes you on a journey every day for 30 days, different little tasks, and it's all about building your life in honor and gratitude. And as the days go on, mate, it lightens the load. I'm actually about to do it again, mate. I'm actually about to do it again, just chatting. Yeah. Actually, because you've got to go through your goals. A lot of the things that you just mentioned there as well. And it's transformational, like, definitely.
And that's what it's taken for me, and I know that's what it can take for other people. But what I want to say to people is that it is possible. No matter what place you're in right now, how you feel, there is a way out of that, and the way out of it is the person looking at you in the mirror. And that is it's just that you've just got to get to a point where you don't want to feel like you do anymore, and you want to feel differently more than you want to stay the same. And then it's just about, again, trying to create rather than being in that victim mentality of things happening to you. What can I do to change my life? Because that's the other thing I realized, nobody was going to come and change it for me. And it's that, and then after you've got those things, it's just practice. You've just got to practice these things, like you just said with the magic and the thing. You've just got to practice these, being different every single day. And someone said to me, like, negative thoughts are like Velcro. They stick real easy. And positive thoughts and feelings are like Teflon, so like the non-stick. So I say to people, how do you burn a non-stick pan? Well, you turn up the fucking heat and you leave it on. And that's what you have to do with that in terms of positivity and being aware of your thoughts and being aware of what you're thinking all the time and what you're thinking about, what you want to happen, and then what you're going to take action on to happen. Because if you stop and think about it when you're struggling, you've been probably thinking about a lot of negative things and you've been caught in the past or the future, anxiety-wise and depression, because when you're in the present moment, you can't feel that way. It's all your stress is, mate. Stresses come from things, don't they?
I'm always bringing out wee quotes, but I love action beats anxiety, mate. Because when you're moving and you're doing something, you're focused on what your attention and focus is on what you're doing right there. You're not thinking about what's going right or wrong or anything. You just bang, you're in about it.
Yeah, and that other understanding of time is, and it's simple to say, it's not easy, but it's just that understanding that what is past, and you can do absolutely nothing about it. I think we're the only species or animal that goes over and punishes ourselves for the same thing over and over and over and over again. And again, that's just habitual. You've just practiced it. But what I think is you're able to practice different behaviours to make them a habit.
Yeah.
And it's just when
you started putting the pieces of the puzzle back to your life, like how did it start to develop? Did you start seeing things daily, weekly, or did you look back and go, fucking hell, man, I can't believe how far I've came? What was it like?
Yeah, well, when I identified these 11 things, and then I kind of then started looking at my daily routine. So then I put a 1 to 11 daily in, and that like what you've said, it was about getting enough sleep, what I was consuming, people, doing things that bring me joy. And I've written them down, and those will change over time. But then, as I've gone along, the formula to it. And that's the thing, because the first one is fixed, which is acceptance and responsibility. After that, depending on how life is, you can mix them up. Because for me, communication might have been the most important thing at that time. But then for another problem, it might be like, well, shit, I've got to sort out my timekeeping. So then that becomes do you know what I mean? So it's good because it's flexible. It doesn't have to be set in stone. And that's why I say to people, but even if you just practice the acceptance and taking responsibility for yourself, that in itself can be really powerful in terms of transforming how you choose to live and making a different decision consistently on how you want to be. Not saying it's not easy, and this is not it won't solve all your problems. It certainly doesn't solve all mine, but it's a toolkit that gives me something to work from when I do fall back. And I've fallen back in the past, it's happened again. And that was the other thing I was going to say again. You're susceptible, aren't you? We're all susceptible. It's just keeping your defences up against such things, and not comparing yourself. I think that's one of the hardest things that we all do. The world is constantly telling us you need this to be happy. You should be doing this, and if you haven't got this, you're not going to be happy. When in essence, we're all really unique. So you cannot compare yourself to anybody because there's nobody like you, and therefore so you don't need to compete against anybody. Just go and be you, right? And just do your thing, because you're the only one who does it the way that you do it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think obviously with the time that we're living with social media and that as well, people go scrolling and they think what they see is someone else. So they're thinking that someone else is either doing or got or living some
magical.
And it's not until we actually do things like this, mate, where we're sitting here, having a chat, being honest, that people start to understand that, hey, wait a minute, fucking hell, other people actually go through shit as well. Because just right in this day and age, I think that's why it's so prominent, and there's a big shout for mental health and that, because people put themselves out there for others to perceive that they're living this great life, and I'm not saying that there isn't people who didn't have the struggle. Some people were lucky, but the majority, everybody's going through their own shit, mate. You know what I mean?
It's the people put the highlight reel on, don't they? Like that, just the best bits. And it's like you said, I think it's just not getting caught up into that and kidding yourself that what you're seeing is actually that's what those people are doing all the time, and you've just got to run your own race. It's literally blinkers on, do your thing. I mean, back in the day, you only could compare to people that you knew, so it was just your mates and your family. Whereas now, you can compare yourself to anyone anywhere on the planet. So, like you said, I think that's brought on the, I suppose, the increase in mental health issues. Certainly for young, like now, I won't like to be a kid now growing up. Like they already start straight away, don't they, with the comparisons and looking at things. And I need this, and I'm going to do this, and if I ain't got this, then I'm not very good, and I'm not really worth much, you know. And it's all this self-esteem, self-reliance things, mate. I think lots of people want people to think well of them and want recognition rather than having self-recognition and self-worth. I don't mean being an arsehole and going out and abusing everybody, but being happy with who you are. And if people choose to like you, then they're entitled to that. And if they choose not to like you, they're also entitled to that. And that's that's all right. I think too many people want to be liked or perceived a certain way instead of just trying to be as real as you can. And I know I did it, living a different way or trying to pretend to be something you're not. Eventually it takes its toll on you, and you might as well just be yourself, however that is, because you'll feel better. You don't need to impress other people. Just go out there and do your best to, like I said, just try your best to be as good as you can be. You know? I mean, I've spoken to loads of people, mate, when it comes to social media, and they can get themselves so elated by the good comments, and then they get themselves like so in the trenches, mate, about the smallest negative thing. And they can maybe get 100 positive, which totally inflates them. And then that little one where it's like, who's going to shit about the 100 good and even the one negative? You know what I mean? You always remember the negative.
But are you doing it? Are you doing it for the likes, or are you doing it for the comments, or are you doing it because you love it? And then whatever people think of it is a bonus.
Absolutely, mate. Listen, I'm sure there's people who see a lot of my stuff and think, "Oh, fucking hell, not him again." Like, he's doing amazing, this fella. But they probably do, and they might have unfollowed, but it don't matter, does it? I know why I put out the things I put out, and that is to help people to hopefully see things from a different perspective so they can help themselves. Some people like it, some people won't, but I don't really care, to be fair. It's none of my business. And a wise woman once said to me, she said, it's none of your business what other people think. And that, I was like, yeah, you're right. You know, we're so concerned with what everybody thinks about us. And these are for people we won't even ever see or spend any time with. You try to impress people that you don't even know, right? So I think it's just hopefully people becoming aware so that they can then start to focus on getting themselves into a place where they want to be, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally. But while you're directing your attention to other sources, it's not going to happen. If you're on Facebook all the time or you're watching the news, and the media is a massive influencer in it. All the media is one person's opinion that gets beamed to millions of people, and then you've still got a decision as to whether you take it on board or not. And that's why step one, acceptance and responsibility. That's the brilliant thing about it. You've always got a choice. You can't control what happens to you sometimes, but you've always got a choice in how you respond. That's one thing that is like undeniable. Do you know what I mean? So bad shit's going to happen in all our lives, and it does. It depends how long you choose to stay in a certain state of mind that'll determine where you end up, right? And that responsibility is yours, no matter what's happened. The responsibility is how you choose to deal with it and what you choose to think. You know.
Spot on, mate. Spot on. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? I'm looking now to try to work with as many footballers as possible. I've drafted up a document that I hopefully want to speak to the the PFA or the FA. And just with this football analogy, certainly for players in the game who are struggling with mental health and outside of the game when they're finished, I want to try to take it to as many people as possible. And then just, apply it to and let people know about it. I've started writing a book, so that's what I'm aiming to get done by the end of the year, and just about my story and the 1 to 11, and then hopefully that'll be a book that people can go to and use for any time. I've been writing a lot of poems. I do a lot of poetry. That's one of the things I've used, certainly in the darker times. I've got a lot of dark ones, to be fair, but it's just. But that's my out when I was struggling, was to be creative and put it in that way. So I want to put. I've probably got nearly 100 now. So I maybe want to put them into a little. Yeah, just accumulate them over time, mate. And I want to put them into a little book. And then from there, it's going into businesses and schools and just talking about some of the things we've talked about. One, in terms of people going to achieve stuff, but then two, about the mental health side of things, and just raising awareness and letting people know that it's all right to be that way and to be able to talk about it. But there's also an action or set of actions that you have to take yourself. So trying to empower people to make the steps themselves, and that you don't have to stay in that victim mentality if you don't want to. You can change that, but it takes a lot of hard work and constant practice. And something we'd said on the call this afternoon was, it's for the rest of your life.
Yeah, mate.
So once you turn the corner and start thinking and feeling differently and feeling better, just understand you're doing this forever, because until you stop breathing air, that's what you've got to just keep driving on. Because if you don't, you fall back and then it gets you again. So you basically just got to just pedal to the metal, mate, and go for it. And like you said, live the best possible life, mate. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's like I've got a wee thing that I've been saying recently, man. It's like happiness over everything. Like over everything. You know, when I was a bit younger than that, I used to train to look chiseled and look like this. And do you know what I mean? And here, I still like to look in great shape. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, but that was the focus. Now, that's the bonus on the back of feeling good. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah.
Like, number one is like, let's get feeling good first.
Yeah.
And as you said as well, mate, it's like you go to the gym, you'll do your bench press, you'll be doing your reps to failure, or you're doing squats or whatever it is to get yourself looking and feeling confident and strong. Yeah. And as you say, this goes on forever in here. It's like your mind's, it's like flexing that mental muscle every day. What are you listening to, as you say? What are you reading? Yeah. You know, are you doing the runs? Are you? And when you are doing them all, mate, what I love is when you're brushing your teeth at the end of the night, and you're thinking, if you've not went through the processes which is going to make you better, you look in the mirror and you're a wee bit like, your head's on the pillow. I could have done a wee bit better today. Yeah. But when you've done it, mate, and you're like, bang, you're ticking the boxes and you've done it and you're brushing your teeth, you're like, bang. Yeah. Head's on the pillow. Head's on the pillow, mate. You're like that. Yeah.
It's right, mate. It is. And but also as well, just to say to people, sometimes you're not always going to be at it. You're not always going to be at the gym every day. You're not always going to be totally focused in terms of your mind. And that's all right as well, because the rest is just as important. So you've got to take that time to enjoy and be aware and kind of present, aren't you, in the moment, and enjoy. Life's just, I don't, people try to figure out what life's all about. It's just an experience, I think, mate. Like, we're just here to experience it in the best possible way that we can, and then it's done. So I was thinking about it last night, and I was just thinking, like, you've just got to enjoy it, haven't you? I've spent enough time not enjoying it. I've spent time under the covers with anxiety. I've had times in a deep, dark place which weren't very pleasurable. But on the other side, mate, that had to happen to me to get me through to where I am now. So again, sometimes people are scared of a breakdown because they think it's going to absolutely ruin them. But sometimes, and I believe often, that breakdown is heading towards a breakthrough. Yeah. It's basically your soul, whatever you want to say, your spirit is saying, listen, how we're living right now is not the way that we want to be living. Yeah. And so, and I believe life works for you as well, Dean. I think that you know, it's like when things happen and you go, oh God, I don't get any luck or whatever. But I just think life's always trying to teach you a lesson. And if you're not watching for the lesson, it'll up the ante in terms of the lesson. So for me, with my mental health, the signs were there, but I just kept ignoring them until eventually it went, right, Pembo, you're having it now. And it smashed me over the head with it and went, I'm going to give you that to wake your ass up. So I'd not paid attention before, but then life gave me no choice but to pay attention and wake up. And then once I woke up, the job was kind of half done, and then the rest is up to me, mate. But that's how I just it's again thinking of the gratitude, the way you perceive things. Good things happen, enjoy them. Bad things happen, learn from them.
100%, mate. Just touching on what you just said there, mate. It's funny because it's like there is people who I know that when they do make a mistake, they only just need a little nudge, and they're like, oh, and they're back on track. It's like, and I think to myself, fucking hell, how did he just readjust like that? When it comes, like, I'm getting better now, but when I look back right through my 20s, mate, there was no nudge that was getting me back on track. Someone was needing to take someone. You know what I mean? It was literally daily. I was getting bang, 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 and I still wasn't listening.
But eventually, you do, don't you? And like you just said, then as you get older, and again, can't emphasize this enough to people, practice. As a human being, anything you want to practice, you can get good at. That's the shit stuff as well. So if you practice the shit stuff, you get world class at that as well. You know, people say to me, "Oh, he's an arsehole," and I'm like, "He's not. He's really good at it. You know, like he's really good at being a dick. He's just practiced it. Like, and so it's just that for me, that just goes off in my head. I just think if you practice something, you can get good at anything if you practice enough. And that also goes for how you think, how you feel, what you do.
$10,000, you become a master, eh?
There we go, mate.
I've done $10,000 a party and easily, mate.
Just a bit.
20,000, 30,000.
I think I spent 10,000 hours in Iron Napa, I think, back in the late 90s.
Oh, brilliant!
That's another podcast, that, mate. Class.
Pam, it's been an absolute blast, mate.
Oh, thank you. An absolute blast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's been outstanding. I love it.
Top, man. No, I've loved it, and hopefully, people have enjoyed it, and hopefully got a few little bits and tips. And if anyone wants to message me, mate, just like hit me up on a message. I'll drop some of my details in the comments after, and website and other little bits, and what I'm on Instagram and things if people want to follow me, if they want some a little bit of inspiration or just a little bit of help, and I don't know everything. I know a few things. There's a lot more that I don't know, but I'm just trying to learn all the time and apply that and share it with other people so that they can help themselves.
Outstanding, mate. Before we go, I'm just going to give a couple of people a shout out. John Shirky, Don Swanky, Ian Lawrence. How are we doing, guys? Thanks very much for the comments. Stuart Derrick, outstanding. You've got a couple of shout outs here as well. Alan Jewell, brilliant. Stevie Richardson, Don Swanky, guys. Always like to give a shout outs. Also, if you could share away, drop another comment in. If you are still on, we'll always jump on afterwards and get back to everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in, Pem. It's been an absolute blast. Guys,
mate. Loved it.
Peace out. Have a good one. Catch ya.